So water tank on the Ocean, really a lot more simpler than it is on the Grand. Just using this vehicle here, we've got a stock vehicle that's here. So in the back here is where your water tank is, and it's also where your gas bottle would be. So obviously this is a brand new vehicle, so there's no gas bottle in here, but again, as we will look at the gas in a minute, on the Grand it's in there as well. I would advise that you disconnect your gas. If you're not going to use it, take it off. You can leave it in the vehicle, but just so it's not actually connected. You're going to leave it for a little while. But also in here, right at this back here, there's a little lever. You can see that little red lever there at the end of it. And if you pull that towards me, that's in that function there, that will drain this tank completely. So that will move the tank all the way down. All the water that was in that tank will flow out under the vehicle, and that obviously will be completely empty. I'd leave it open for a while. So the tank itself might dry out a bit as well. As far as cleaning that tank is concerned, and talking about those are the type of things I would do when we're starting the next season off. Obviously, if you don't do any of that, obviously you might want to clean your tank out once a year or something like that. If you're using it constantly, so you're always using your tank that's in there, it's not necessarily so much of an issue because you, as you said, the water is being flowed through there. But any time you've got water not being flowed through there, or it's been stationary for a long period of time, you might, for example, want to put a flushing agent that's in there and give those tanks a clean out before you start your next season that's on there. I'm no expert on that. There's lots of things online that can tell you about that, what kind of tablets to have in and things like that before. We've done on these tanks before where we've used the tablet variations that's in, so put the tablet in, drive it around, let it splash around everywhere and get it cleaned out, for example, and then drain it back out and then fill it and drain it, etc., just so that it's back to as it will be normally. And then once that's done, just close it back, so you're back in the normal position, so that when you do come and fill your vehicle up with water, it doesn't just pour out underneath. When you do empty your water tank from there, it's not pretty, by the way. It just spills out all underneath the bottom of the vehicle because it's coming into the bottom of the water tank rather than necessarily coming through a pipe or something like that, like it does on the wastewater. So you will just start to see lots of water drip out the bottom of the vehicle. Obviously, whenever you're emptying all of these as well, you're probably worth parking over a grid. If you're on a campsite, something like that, the last place you go, it's easy because they've usually got places where you can park and it just comes out from on there. Or alternatively, you could put a tray or something underneath the bottom of the vehicle. But my suggestion would be park on the side of the road, especially with a fresh water tank, because that is drinking water that's coming out. So that can just go straight down a drain that goes out and, as water would do coming off your roof or somewhere like that. So again, just park on the road near to a grid. It'll probably just go down there and flow straight away. A little bit different with your grey water, for example, if you're pulling off any grey water. If that grey water is just normal water because you've had nothing in there, then fair enough, that can just probably go to any normal source. But obviously, if it's proper grey water, you've been doing dishes and things like that, you dispose of that properly, and you probably do that at the last time you were at a site or somewhere like that and dispose of it correctly. And while we're in the back of the Ocean, let's have a look at the electrics quickly. So we've got our electrical hookup panel at the back here. Just a reminder for everybody, red is danger, so it's actually on red. So if you turn it off and flick it off, that's green, which basically means that it's safe. And there's no problems with that at all. But obviously you can just plug this in at home, for example, if you want to. Plug in on the side, that charges it up. If you've got an Ocean this size of vehicle, you're probably going to be using this over the winter time as well, possibly. So if you are doing that, that's going to be charging those batteries up as well that's in the vehicle and keep them nice and topped up. But you could even have things like, for example, a trickle charger, a smart charger, you could add if you wanted to. But the easiest way for me, plug in on the side of the vehicle and leave it for a couple of hours on that basis, and that will charge all your leisure batteries up. So your grey water tank on these is at the back that's there. And to release the grey water, just a handle here. So to push it down, that's on that basis, and it will flow straight out of the vehicle. Push it back up, and that takes it to the off position. Probably worth noting at this moment in time as well is if you ever have any problems and you need to actually get in these tanks. So the access for the tank here is that little screw at the back that's on there. So you can see in between that. So it's on bottom and top and below the shelf. Obviously this shelf comes up. You can turn that and get access to the tank. And the same is with the water in the back. This is accessed. Probably worth noting, I don't know anybody who's ever had to take any of them off to get access to the water tank. More case just showing you where they actually are so you're aware of where those access points are. I don't think there's any need to actually get in them or clean them out. A couple of important things worth mentioning, especially on the Ocean variation as well. So the last time you go out from on there, you really need to make sure that that all your roof, etc., that's in there is definitely dry. It's all bone dry that's in there. I would even suggest, for example, if you're not going to use the roof section or not going to put it up for a month or two, is that, you know, once a Saturday or a weekend or something like that, you go out there and maybe just put your roof up, bring it back down again, just make sure everything's okay with your roof that's in there as well, and give it a bit of an air out, which in the top won't do it any harm, to do that as you go along as well. And then we'll talk about things that you might keep in your vehicle as well. So obviously things like, for example, dry foods, tins, etc., things like that, they're probably going to be okay keeping them in your vehicle over a long period of time. And I know I'm saying the obvious here, but I'm going to say it anyway. But obviously you don't want to leave anything that's fresh in your vehicle. That's going to be there for a long period of time. Be a bit of a nasty surprise when you come back to it after 3 months finding something that has gone off that's in there. We want to take all those out as well. I get asked about things like bedding, for example. Now, obviously, these vehicles are not a coach-built vehicle, effectively, so they're an encompass vehicle, so they come as a body shell vehicle that's in there. So things like damp, etc., inside the vehicle isn't really an issue like you could get with a something like a caravan or a motorhome type bigger type of vehicle. And in those, you would, for example, you could take out your bedding and things like that and store it and take those home. I personally would probably do that if I wasn't going to use the vehicle for a couple of months and it was being parked up in a storage facility, something like that. I probably would take all my bedding out and take that back home with me and keep that separate. But again, there's no rules, fast rules on that. I know we always used to do that with a caravan. Whenever we used to put that back into storage over the winter, we weren't using it. We'd always take the bedding and things like that out that's in as well, just so that doesn't, again, have no problems with it as well. So just have a think about it and maybe go through your vehicles before you do put them into storage, if that's what you're doing this winter. And obviously just have a good check around, make sure you've got everything out that you think you might need. Well, I hope you found today's video useful. If there's anything I've missed out, please let us know in the comments box below and we'll add it to a future video. I'm sure there's probably something that you do, which I haven't mentioned on one of these particular vehicles, which is something you think is something we should do. Please put it in there and then we can share that with everybody else, so everybody else can get an idea of what can and can't you do that's in these. For everybody that's putting their Californias to bed now and leaving it until next year, have a nice break. For everybody else that's out there that is still going away, and then at this time of year, it's a great time to go away. Obviously, the weather can be very, very changeable this year, but it's very nice sitting them in there. There's lots of campsites that are open all throughout the year, so you can get out and use these for wherever you might going. So again, if you've got any winter plans for your Californias, let us know in the comments below. Get in touch and let us know if you're interested to know what everybody else is doing from on in there. So as I said, if you enjoyed today's video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you don't subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. It really does help us out here. It gives us an idea that we're doing the right thing, bringing you the right type of content that's there, and we'll see you next time.